Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to the deep dive. We've got a really interesting set of articles here from CoinMarketCap, all dated around June 7th, June 8th, 2025.
That's right. And the idea today is, well, to cut through the noise a bit, we want to pull out the key takeaways, the important bits about what these sources say is happening in crypto right now.
Yeah, looking at the dates, early June 2025. It definitely seems like a busy period. News covering everything from the majors to stablecoins, even some specific altcoins. Okay, let's get into it. Maybe start with the big names. I saw a headline here about Ether. ETH staying above $2,500. That feels kind of important lately. What's driving that, according to these articles?
Well, what's interesting is the connection they're drawing. They're linking that price stability, holding above $2,500, directly to ETF inflows.
Ah, okay.
So the suggestion is institutional money coming in via ETFs is basically creating a support level for ETH, a structural thing.
Right, structural support. That's different from, say, Ripple's XRP. The sources seem to highlight its volatility instead. What are analysts saying about XRP for June?
Yeah, for XRP, it's more about technical analysis. They're looking at resistance levels, charting potential price paths, but also just noting the general market sentiment around it, which seems pretty active.
Okay. And speaking of active, there's this piece about James Wynn. Sounds like a very bold Bitcoin position, 40x leverage.
Yes, exactly.
hmm
And the articles frame it less as just a trade and more like something sparking wider discussion in the market.
Mm,
Kind of raises flags about risk appetite, how public these big plays are becoming. It's a real example of that high leverage element.
gotcha. Okay, let's shift a bit. Stablecoins and the bigger picture. I saw news from June 7th, Tether's CEO, Paolo Arduino. He apparently said Tether isn't planning to go public.
Right, and specifically mentioned that in light of Circle, their competitor, listing on the NYSE.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this interesting quote where he apparently called a potential $515 billion valuation for Tether a bit bearish.
Wow, okay. Gives you a sense of their internal view, maybe, their confidence level.
Could be. It certainly reflects their scale in the stablecoin world.
So beyond specific companies like Tether, what about the broader market focus? These sources mention something external everyone's watching.
Yes, and this is where things get really interesting, connecting crypto to the wider economy. The whole market seems to be holding its breath, waiting for the US CPI data.
The inflation numbers.
Exactly, that consumer price index data.
Yeah.
It's crucial because it feeds directly into what the Federal Reserve might do with interest rates.
Right.
And those decisions, as we know, can send waves across all kinds of assets, crypto included. It's a major link the articles are pointing out.
Absolutely. Okay, let's zoom in on altcoins then. One piece calls June 2025 a pivotal month for alts, saying the focus is maybe shifting more towards substance over just, hype.
Yeah, and it actually names a few. It mentions BlockDAG, Cosmos, Aptos, and Aave as coins that are, quote, gaining serious ground.
And why is that?
The reasoning given is focused on their actual development work and their ecosystems expanding.
Hmm.
So less speculative buzz, more about underlying progress.
Okay, that makes sense. There's also an article on SUI price prediction. It mentioned a mixed sentiment after something called a hack fallout.
Yes, implying some recent security issue might be affecting how people feel about SUI.
Mm.
And it also briefly mentioned something called Quebec's Wallet Arch. Sounds like a new feature or project element, though the source didn't go deep into what that means exactly.
Right. Okay. So wrapping this up, we've touched on quite a bit just from these few sources. We've got ETH stability potentially tied to ETFs.
XRP volatility being watched closely.
That high leverage Bitcoin trades sparking debate.
Tether's stance on going public, especially versus Circle.
The whole market waiting on that crucial U.S. economic data, the CPI.
And then specific altcoins like BlockDAG, Cosmos, Aptos, Aave, gaining traction based on development alongside project-specific things happening with coins like SUI.
So what's the big takeaway here for someone listening? What does this snapshot tell us?
I think it really shows how interconnected everything is, but also how many different types of factors are at play all at once. You have project-specific news like with the altcoins. You have big strategic moves from major players like Tether. You have structural market changes like ETFs. And then you have these huge external economic forces like inflation data and Fed decisions looming over everything.
It's a complex mix.
Definitely. It highlights that you can't just look at one thing in isolation.
So maybe a final thought for you listening. As you look at the market, how do you weigh these different threads? You have a CEO's comment here, a big trade there, an upcoming data release, slow and steady ecosystem growth somewhere else. How do you decide which signals matter most to you in this constantly shifting landscape?